Yeah, this question is just in essence to know what dealings the Minister has had with Aer Lingus in recent months with regard to the future ownership of the company, but also a number of maybe quite substantial changes that have taken place there in relation to some operational matters and the pension and that as well. If he had any information on that, we'd be quite glad, because obviously these issues are overhanging the staff as we speak.
Minister.
Thank you. My department and I are in regular contact with Aer Lingus, both from a shareholder and aviation policy perspective. The airline continues to compete well as an independent airline and is due to start a number of important new direct services in 2014, such as San Francisco and Toronto. In 2012, the government included shareholding in Aer Lingus among the possible assets to be sold under the State Asset Disposal Programme, but agreed the stake would only be sold when the market conditions were favourable and if acceptable terms and an acceptable price could be secured. However, circumstances favourable to sale did not arise during the period of the EU IMF support programme. The government remains willing to sell its stake, but I consider it unlikely that a buyer will be willing to offer the right price and accept the appropriate conditions, and that will emerge in the near future. The ongoing pension deficit issue and the legal challenges to the EU and UK regulatory authority decisions on Ryanair's stake create uncertainties for any potential buyer. The government will continue to manage its shareholding actively, with the aim of maximising the value of the shareholding, securing dividends and encouraging new routes and additional capacity where commercially viable. The shareholding gives the government an important say in proposals to dispose of Aer Lingus' valuable stock portfolio in Heathrow, and also gives the government the right to nominate up to 3 directors of the board.
Deputy Clare Daly.
Yeah, I'd like the Minister maybe to expand a little bit more on this. In essence, what he's saying is that, yes, he'd love to deal with it, and are actively looking, but circumstances are not right at the moment to dispose of the final shareholding in this valuable state asset. Now, I obviously ideologically don't agree with that in any case, and not just from the point of view of the market condition basis. This was and is a key employer for thousands of people, providing a good and viable service, and over its lifetime has actually served the taxpayer well, and I think severing any links would be incredibly short-sighted. But you did refer to a number of key issues, and I wonder, could you enlighten us, particularly with regard to the pension issue? Now, you will be aware that Aer Lingus management even threatened SIPTU that they would take legal action against them for having the cheek to even organise a ballot, when the union had assured management there was no question of any strike before Christmas or anything like that, because of the stalemate that has been reached in the critically important pension negotiation. So I wonder, have you been in touch with the company on that? Have you expressed your dissatisfaction that a management in a company of which you have a sizeable shareholding would behave like that towards its workforce, and have you encouraged them to maybe engage a little bit better, given the huge importance of that issue to the workers, but also to the future of the company?
Thanks very much. In relation to the government shareholding, as I say, we remain willing to sell the stake at the right time, at the right price and under the right conditions, but that doesn't appear to be emerging at this point in time. It is important to remember, I think, that when Aer Lingus was fully state-owned, it was heavily loss-making. Now, under majority private ownership, 75% privately owned, it's a success story. It's one of a few airlines in the world, or in Europe certainly, that actually makes money. It's profitable, it's efficient, and it pays a dividend to the state. And in my view, that's proof positive that the privatisation of Aer Lingus was a success story, both for passengers and for taxpayers. In relation to the pension fund, it's a multi-employer pension fund, as you know. It involves DAA, it involves SRT and Aer Lingus, which makes the whole thing very, very complicated. Like a lot of pension funds, the problem is actually quite simple. Over a long period of time, neither the members nor the company paid enough money into the pension fund to deliver the benefits that were promised or expected. And the only solution to it is the only solution that can ever arise from a problem like this, which is for the members to accept less benefits than they had anticipated, and for both companies to put more money into the pension funds.
Thank you, Minister.
And that's the finding of the Labour Court, and that's something that I've endorsed.
Deputy Daly.
So the Minister is incredibly ill-informed on both counts. Firstly, with regard to the pension situation, the problem was not, as you identified, one of simply not paying enough. In actual fact, it's demonstrably the case that it was poor management decisions facilitating early retirements and voluntary severance schemes over a whole period in time, putting a strain on that scheme, as well as outsourcing direct labour, which led to less members joining that scheme that caused the problem. Now, the bottom line here is that the company is inadequately standing up to its responsibilities in that regard, and I think you, as Minister, rather than saying to pensioners, deferred pensioners and active members of that scheme that they have to take a hit on that you might be better off telling your management to rein it in a bit and to stop threatening and bullying its staff through use of the courts and other means. Now, with regard to the history of Aer Lingus did experience some losses, but it was entirely profitable pre-privatisation. Many changes had been made already, and it was an incredibly viable company with substantial cash assets on its books at the time of privatisation. So your assertion that it was privatisation that turned this company around is ill-informed. The company over its lifetime has been an incredibly successful Irish venture with a great service, very little, an overwhelming net contributor to the Exchequer over its lifetime, and providing relatively decent, secure and up to now pensionable employment.
Final reply, Minister.
Yes, certainly. From my knowledge, Aer Lingus only became profitable again in recent years and has only paid a dividend in the last 2 years. I'm sure the Deputy will correct me if I'm wrong, but to the best of my information, it has only paid a dividend last year and the year before.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, well, it did, and you'll be aware at the time of privatisation, rather than the asset and the money from the sales going to the taxpayer as it should have, some of it went into the pension fund at that time. And when somebody sells an asset, the money should go to them and not to others. But that's all history at this stage.
Thank you. I have to go on to the next question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Number